Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Top Cyber Pro podcast. I'm founder and CEO Jim West. I got an amazing guest today. Evan is a guy that's got he's really well connected in the tech community. And the one title of his, a lot of us professionals we wear multiple hats. He got multiple titles, but this guy's got a really unique title, Tech Influencer. We're definitely going to deep dive into some of that. But Evan, welcome to the Top Cyber Pro podcast.
Well, thanks for being here. Really intrigued to dive in with a true industry expert like yourself. I think I like to kind of observe what's going on, but you're right in the middle of it, so I'm honored to be here.
Well, let's dive right into that title, tech influencer. For someone that might be hearing that for the first time, can you give like a high level overview of what is a tech influencer?
Tech influencer or techfluencer, either
Tech
way you call it. It's basically, someone who is has a voice online, a significant share of voice in certain topics, or maybe a large social following. I have about 600,000 followers. I've sort of built up organically over, gosh, 20 years on LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube and other places, X. Um, and it's someone who doesn't want to be called an influencer because, an influencer is not necessarily a positive term these days. I have no beauty products, obviously, or brands that I'm selling or products or, you know, but I am obsessed with tech, intrigued by all things tech, particularly B2B and enterprise tech and topics like cybersecurity and cloud and 5G and IoT and be on and on. And so, a lot of us give ourselves these taglines to kind of position ourselves out in the marketplace. And so far, it's working well.
One of the great things I like about, looking at your long career and how well connected you are, the key thing that comes into my mind is how plugged in you are, particularly with emerging technologies. Because in the past 2 years, I often criticize that I've made some rants on this online regarding how in the past few years, everybody's all of a sudden an AI quantum expert. But you have truly been plugged in for about 20 plus years. And that's one of the things I think your credibility and reputation speaks for itself, that you've just been plugged in and connected and on that forefront of all these emerging technology. Like you mentioned IoT, cloud, AI, 5G, and of course we got the 6G that's just about to come over the hillside, right? So could you talk a little bit about those experiences of 20 years of just kind of being what I call plugged in?
Well, for me, it started in college. I was an electrical engineering student, graduate, but I wanted to go in a different route. I didn't want to stare at a terminal and write code, and every circuit I built was kind of a disaster. So I looked at alternatives. I went through into the sales and biz dev and alliances side of tech companies, startups, big tech companies like Intel and Philips and Oracle and many others. But about a decade ago, I thought, get out of the corporate rat race, build my own business as a solopreneur and create content. Where I was obsessed with social media. I've always been, since the rise of social, intrigued by connecting and learning, discovering through social. And I managed to build an audience and kind of snowball that into a business, a career as a content creator and podcaster and live streamer and now TV show host. So it's the intersection of being obsessed with tech, just personally, professionally, is and then obsessed with social media, and that sort of has landed me in some really fun and interesting places and given me, insider kind of access to what's happening and people in particular like this. I mean, I've done thousands and thousands of podcasts and interviews and been on podcasts like yours, and you learn from people. And it's that human to human connection where you learn. It's not reading articles and books and browsing posts and tweets. It's talking to people like you, and so I think that's been the journey.
Well said, and I love that. And what people don't understand when you move into the transition into content creation, everybody says, "Oh, I want to do a podcast." There are thousands of podcasts that get stood up month after month, but then they don't last long because people don't truly understand the consistency and the real dedication you got to have. You got to have a fire, and you got to perpetually keep that fire going. So with 20 plus years, and of course 10 years really focused on content creation, what are the things that you do to keep that fire burning inside of yourself, to keep that passion alive, to be consistent and dedicated?
Well, you gotta network and connect with individuals who are interesting or inspiring, or you can learn from, like yourself. I mean, we joined. You were immediately talking about your story in the Middle East and in Kuwait right now, and that's just intriguing. So you got to be interested in people and other people, and it can't really be all about yourself. The problem with these quote unquote influencers, and I guess I'm one of them, they always talk about themselves. They're obsessed with themselves. It's all about me or you, and that's not sustainable. So it has to be. I mean, my show isn't about me. It's about other people. It's about learning, education, edutainment, and other people, and inviting smart people to the table. And I think that's where people kind of lose steam. They don't reach out enough and network enough to get amazing guests and keep the conversations flowing. You got to keep that going to do it in the long haul.
And I love that you mentioned one of those key words that's really popular with social today is edutainment, right?
Yeah,
Informing, educating people while making it fun and engaging, right? And more importantly, relevant. You mentioned just a little while ago about your career path. You mentioned a couple companies that we've seen in the news lately, Intel and Oracle. Lately it had been NVIDIA, right? As far as, GPUs and chips go. But then recently, Intel's had a lot of heavy investment partnership with NVIDIA as well. And then of course, Oracle just made the news with a major layoff. I think 30,000 employees laid off the other day.
unbelievable.
But they're also becoming a big player in the AI market as well. So again, you've gotten a great track record there with a lot of these big companies that are coming back into tech really strong. But anyhow, move on to my first question on my agenda. This is my favorite question actually for all my guests. If we go back in time to day one, you mentioned that you would start off with electrical engineering, but if we could go to day one when you made that decision that, hey, I want to go all in on this cyber IT emerging technology, is there a story there that you could share with us?
No, I think my first job out of college was with a company called Dialogic that was in telephony world. So they were putting PC cards in PCs, and building interactive voice response systems and voicemail systems. And so that was the intersection of technology and IT and telecom.
Hmm.
And that sort of got me in the whole telecom world. So that's been a strong theme throughout, is that early days of interactive telephony. Of course, voice now is everywhere. It's an app.
Yeah.
We don't even think about uh, the old school telecom switching and routing world. So that was, my initial foray into tech. And that was a startup at the time. But, ever since, I've just been fascinated by where technologies converge, whether it's, IT and telecom, whether it's voice and data and video, whether it's healthcare and technology with, health tech and wearables. So it's these whether it's, IoT and smart home. So it's all these areas of convergence that are really fascinating. But once you get a foot in the door in these areas, you get bitten by the bug, and you kind of just every day is something new and exciting. Especially now with AI, I feel like I wake up and every day is like, you're like Charlie in the chocolate factory. There's just new things to explore, and it's just amazing news, new models, new tools, new apps. Personal productivity is off the charts. And so that was always happening. And cybersecurity is part of everything now. It's part of your personal and professional life. It's part of every story, every new technology. And so that's just a natural thing to dive into.
Mhm. So speaking of which, brings me to the next question. With your conversations between your TV series, which we'll get to that in a second, and your podcast and everything else that you do in the community, what have been some of the trends or what is the things that excites you for right now and in the near future in regards to technology?
I think it's the empowering of individuals. Enterprises have had, AI and ML tools and a lot of these systems for a decade or so. But now the power of the tools, whether it's a Claude or ChatGPT, pick your favorite tool, in the power of individuals and what that means for individual productivity, personal enrichment for small business and small business owners, whether it's, creation, content creation, advertising, scheduling, managing work, making yourself more efficient. I mean, these things are in the hands of real people, real individuals, not just big companies or enterprises who can afford them. And I think that democratization of technology is so interesting. it's just been eye-opening for me as a small business owner of sorts to just use these tools in my day-to-day and see the impact and the effect, whether it's on social media or whether it's for video creation or editing or blogging. It just opens whole new worlds. And I think that that power of the tech in the consumer's hand, I mean, we've had that for decades with the advent of personal computing, but now it's starting to get really impactful.
You know, Mo Godot has made the rounds on social with a lot of different statements, and one of his recent statements was how AI, on average, is giving the entire world population a 20 plus IQ points. And he kind of goes in a little depth of what that really means on an intellectual scale. But, you know, being able to enable people to do things that they would never be able to do just on their own or would take much longer to acquire those skills and that knowledge and information, and then put an implementation plan and take action on it, right? And so, a great case is I had a conversation on my podcast, I think it was a season or two ago, with Nick Shalon, who is the creator and CEO of Ask Sage AI, who recently, a few
Mm,
months ago, just got acquired by Big Bear AI. And
mm,
so, he actually generated the business with his own AI. He had his AI help him with all the paperwork to file to stand up his company. And then he had, since he was doing work with the government, you have to do this RMF process. So he
mhm.
used the tool to accredit itself because he didn't want to wait the 4 to 6 months for someone to come and validate. So he had it self validate. And so it's just amazing how he saved so much time and money. And I think, I don't know if he gave me the ballpark price he spent, but I'm pretty sure it was less than about $5,000, $6,000 as opposed to $30,000, $40,000 going into the traditional way. And he recently, I think his post said that he had the acquisition was valued around $100 million. So again,
Wow.
AI is enabling people, and not to say that Nick Shalana wasn't already brilliant, but again, it enabled him as a force multiplier to be like a lawyer, to be a SCAVI, a validator for the security of their own system. But he was able to do all of that through AI. And then again, he just did a great exit for that business to Big Bear AI. But AI definitely is a game changer, just like the internet became a game changer with education and connecting the world. So, is there any other technologies or things that you're kind of plugged into that's coming on the horizon that people should maybe start paying more attention to? I know AI, we get an update every day with new AI systems, but is there something that not enough people are talking about or keeping a beat on that you would say, hey, folks may want to keep tabs on this?
Yeah, I think it's all about the use cases. I mean, I just had the CEO of a company on called Simpro, Simpro, and they're putting AI in the hands of the trades. So your
Oh,
local plumber, your local electrician, your 10-person pool cleaning company, and they're giving them tools and apps to manage, to schedule, to empower their workforce to run the business more efficiently. Again, not with heavy IT
mhm.
tech know-how and requirements that can it boosts their bottom line by like 20%, which in a trades business maybe you're making 7, 8, 9% profit margin, and to empower through ambient listening and XR technology new tradespeople to learn and be overseen through some of the tools. Empowering younger people in the trades through AI education, and just we all talk about professionals like ourselves and the business and the online side of things, but this is for plumbers and electricians and installers and carpet cleaners, and so that whole side of the economy could be transformed as well. That traditional blue collar worker side of the business, and that's not being really talked about. So it's not just a story about making better websites faster, or doing coding and doing online a business like we do. It's gonna, I think, affect for good, and there'll be disruption along the way. So many business owners, particularly those small business owners, the mom and pops and others who traditionally might have been kind of left out of the AI, the boom, the tech boom, the
Mhm.
IT boom, the productivity boom.
You know, it's real interesting. You mentioned these trade skills and careers where there's been some people trying to talk and raise awareness about it. How, you know, these guys are making pretty good money per hour, right? But then when you introduce AI, at least from the level of scheduling, the personal assistance, or even managing their supplies, it will free them up from having to do that time, you know, when they get back home to a computer, to being able to do that through their phones and actually schedule more work to raise their capacity, earning capacity. So I 100% am looking forward to seeing these developments in that space, because when people talk about AI or even these robots we're starting to see them develop,
Mm.
there's only so many jobs that these the AI and robots could take over. But when it comes to plumbing, you're doing electrical work, AC repair, roofing, and so forth, I still think this is going to be a largely human trade and skills. And so I love that AI is still going to be able to enhance and help those professions and careers. So that's amazing. I like to talk about the Tech Impact show, your national TV series. So let's talk a little bit about what is the why, and tell us a little bit about the show.
Yeah, it's not my show. I'm the host, but it's Tech Impact, one word, .tv. It's monthly on Fox Business and Bloomberg. And it's a format, a forum for all the things we're talking about, B2B, enterprise IT and AI and emerging applications and cybersecurity. And there's 6 5-minute segments and no ads. And it's content that, is not really on television, traditional television. So it's on Fox Business, it's on Bloomberg Television, and it's just a great channel for this kind of content that often is overlooked on TV with all the nonsense and entertainment that's on. It's a complement to the news show. So we're not doing news; we're really doing deep dives for TV, a 5-minute segments, a deep dive into really cool, new and emerging technologies. So people should check it out. You can look at the videos online at techimpact.tv or on set your DVR to record it Fox Business and Bloomberg. But really exciting. The studio's down in the Miami area. And for me, as a content entrepreneur, it's just a whole new channel, right? I mean, social is amazing. And I live and breathe there, and YouTube and LinkedIn and X, et cetera, Facebook. But, that often doesn't reach, sort of the boomer or the Gen X demographic as much as the younger people. So my philosophy is, every channel all the time.
I love that. And folks, we're going to have the links for that series, and of course his YouTube channels and socials will be in the description below. So we're going to save you that Google search. So let's talk about the podcast. What are some of the highlights that you can look back in the past few years of guests or topics on your podcast?
I just like to have really smart people. So I look forward to, first of all, having you on. I mean, that would be amazing, and just covering a wide variety of topics. I don't like to be too niche, just because you can lose some people. But one of the pinned videos I see here, Jeffrey Moore, the speaker, the author of Crossing the Chasm, really just a fascinating guy. I mean, he's pinned to the top there. But I like to have the people who may not be as seen and heard. The actual engineers, the thought leaders, the practitioners, the
Yes.
innovators, the founders on, not just the if you go to CNBC and you see all the CEOs doing a lot of marketing speak. These are longer form conversations, 30, 40 minutes or more. And deeper dives and just casual. I love this format, casual, conversational, interactive, and specific to an audience that interested in specific topics, verticals, or applications. The beauty of YouTube is, the algorithms serve those conversations up to those who are interested. So, if you're interested in narrowband IoT applications, YouTube will serve that up to you, and it'll be found and seen and heard. So the beauty is, and I think the riches, as they say, are in the niches of these
Riches and the niches. I
applications.
love it.
So I love the deep dive, deep tech, deep vertical kind of discussions. That includes things like healthcare and wearables and AI in health tech. That's a big topic. It includes cybersecurity. Quantum is such a big topic now. I love having people who are in the know on quantum topics, and on and on.
Wonderful. So my next question for you is, along your long career, 20 plus years, you've had to have managers, directors, colleagues, coworkers, or just people in the industry you looked up and admired. So the goal is, of course, kind of like that Oscar acceptance speech. You're not going to have enough time to name all the names, but are there some names that you want to shine a light on that had a positive impact along your journey thus far?
Yeah, I think I look to inspiration. I love the founder led companies. Michael Dell, is kind of an inspiration. Is I love people who are in the game, but also still in it after decades and decades, and ups and downs and through all the challenges. So people like Michael Dell or, Mark Benioff at Salesforce, who they have a strong point of view and a social perspective, as well as incredible business chops. So, those are a couple examples of people who, wow, they're tech moguls and obviously zillionaires, but they kind of earned their seat at the table. They started from almost nowhere in a scrappy and a dorm room in Michael's case, and kind of worked their way to where they are. And that's a great story.
And I love that because, a lot of folks, when they think about billionaires, their first assumption is, oh, they come from money. But if you look at most of our billionaires today, they're self-made. They did the grind. They stayed consistent, stayed super passionate. So again, as we mentioned earlier, to do anything in life, you have to have a drive for it, right? You just
Mm,
because there's going to be ups and downs, as you mentioned with like Michael Dell, and going through decades of doing this work, you're going to have ups and downs, but you got to have passion, you got to have drive.
yeah, and
So.
and perseverance and grit. And I think particularly as a entrepreneur, a startup founder, I mean, that's the number one characteristic.
Yes. So at this point, I do a break from the tech talk, and this is kind of what I call my moment of levity, where I hit my guests with some rapid fire questions. There's no right or wrong answer. So if you'll humor me, I'm going to fire some questions your way. It's all for fun. So the first question out the gate is a hot dog a sandwich?
Hot dog is not a sandwich.
It's not a
I come
sandwich. You
from
heard.
Boston. And we have a long history of sandwiches here, going back to Britain. So I think the Earl of Sandwich would be very upset if he was told the hot dog is a sandwich.
All right. Keeping with the food, cake or pie?
I love a good pie. I mean, summertime's coming. You got blueberry season, real local blueberries. Some places here, I mean, you go out in the fields and the woods, and blueberry bushes are just growing, and you can bake a pie from those. Amazing.
So would it be hot or cold blueberry pie for you?
I think cold with ice cream, right? Summertime
Cold,
treat.
cold with ice cream. I like it. All right. This one's going to split the room of IT people. So we're going to go
Hmm.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, it's for me, it's Star Wars. I
Oh,
mean, ever since, 7-year-old kid in the movie theater, first
wow.
Star Wars, I think first movie, and just like,
So you
your
was
mind
there
is,
for 1977 New Hope?
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I was vague memories, right? I was a
Yeah.
kid, but I think that sort of thing and the whole journey that just sticks with you for a lifetime. So, yeah, definitely Star Wars.
Who's your favorite Star Wars character?
I think it's I don't Han Solo is a rebel, so I love the rebel side. And he's such a great actor and been through the whole series. So Solo's a good one.
Awesome, awesome. And then my last question is, what has been your most favorite book of all time, and what was the last book you've read?
Wow, I feel like I don't read as much as I should. I listen mainly to audiobooks, but I love the Churchill biography that came out recently. He was such a incredible figure. I mean, almost saving civilization as we know it.
Mhm.
So anything to do with World War II and Churchill and the Battle of Britain, which kind of feels a little familiar these days,
Yeah.
too familiar. The recent biography, I forget the name, was best, but you could pick up any book about Churchill and it's amazing.
Awesome. So getting back into the tech, when you mentioned you started early on with the telecoms, right? And so, a lot of the talks and discussions I've had with folks regarding quantum is we're looking at the next thing with the quantum entanglement possibly being the ceiling when it comes to telecommunications, right? The whole idea of the entanglement, being able to communicate no matter what the distance, and it's going to become more important as we start to send more things into space, maybe more manned moon missions. Right now, Artemis is on their journey. But when we're starting to look at like going to Mars and even sending things even further in the distance, trying to minimize that delay in sending the signal back and forth is going to become more and more important in the future, right? So a lot of folks are looking for entanglement and the use cases that it's going to impact telecom. Have you had any discussions with folks in industry yet about this anticipation and the use cases, or what is really the next advancements for telecom as we know it?
Yeah, I think it's on one hand securing networks, securing through quantum communications, quantum networking, providing a layer of security that's truly unhackable, which is, in the DoD world is the dream. It's the goal. It's going to be the requirement if we ever reach, Q day or whatever you call it. So I
Mhm.
think definitely there's a lot of folks focused, like Cisco, focused on secure quantum networking, and that's really exciting. I mean, use cases for quantum compute are, everything and anything. Drug discovery to solving uh, supply chain problems that have evaded us forever to proving advanced theories around uh, distribution of products and services at retailers and how to organize retail. And there's just so many instances where quantum gives you a whole nother view on those problems that traditional computing can't give you. And a lot of those could be in medicine and drug discovery and health, and studying the brain and other things. So yeah, no, it's something that's just it seems to be getting real. I mean, the funding is pouring into quantum.
Yes.
It seems to be no longer like a science project, but there are real uses and use cases for quantum beyond just security, that are amazing. I saw at MWC IBM's latest quantum computer that looked like something out of Star Trek. Speaking of Star
Mhm.
Trek,
Yeah.
and so although we're not there yet in terms of the number of qubits and the practical, software tools needed, it's getting closer and closer and closer. So I'm excited. I'm optimistic.
So talking about excitement, you also mentioned more than once about, being, engaging with founders and these innovative startups. What are some companies that you've, been made aware of that maybe more people should be paying attention to the work that they're doing? Because I know you're plugged into so much. So are there a couple companies that you can say, hey, they're doing some really interesting stuff?
Yeah, I kind of love what AMD is doing with their reinvention, beyond gaming
Yes.
into hardcore GPUs for data centers, and that is really really exciting. And we need more entrants into the GPU space, and so keeping an eye on them, keeping an eye on companies like Nebius and the AI factories and others that's really interesting. So hardware is kind of getting sexy again after a long period of where it was, not as exciting. But obviously, it's at the forefront again today. And I think everything to do with space, is just really exciting again. Whether it's what SpaceX is doing, but that whole ecosystem around satellite communications. Obviously, you can, text and chat directly via satellite. Just opens up incredible opportunities. So with Starlink, but beyond the obvious SpaceX Starlink, there's just a whole ecosystem of companies developing space-based technologies and applications for remote monitoring, for telehealth in Africa, through to technologies for first responders. So space is like one of the most exciting time I think in decades.
One company I've been following their journey so far is StarCloud. The idea of putting the data centers
Mm.
in space, because again, cooling, it makes sense. That there's just got to make sure they worry about anything catching on fire, right? But with the high temperatures. But I love the concept. I know obviously Elon's looking to do this very similar initiative with SpaceX as well. So seeing all this rush to put technology into space and the space race, if you will, I love the innovation that's being brewed up around that sector, and I think it's real interesting to see how fast it's starting to move. So so with that being said, I know you get asked this a lot, and again, it's a very cliche question, but I would love to hear your perspective. But when people ask this question, it's usually like, "What do you see as the next 3 to 5 years in technology? Where are we at 3 to 5 years from now?" So I know it's a cliche question, but where do you see from everything you've known, all the information of people you talk to, what do you see in 3 to 5 years from now?
I see, technology being much more personal and personalized and almost invisible in many ways. whether it's things like hearables. I mean, I've got these little things in my ear.
Uh,
Everyone wears AirPods, but really intelligent, smart sensing devices, whether they're in your ears that for health and wellness or hearing aid purposes, or to transcribe discussions or do listening. I mean, they're just that whole class of hearables is so exciting, whether it's wearables, pins or pendants or necklaces or other devices that can help you organize yourself and your day and be listening and helping you, maybe helping an elderly person at home.
I like that. Yeah.
But smart rings, we've seen just huge success with Aura and for personal digital health and wellness. Those are going to get smarter and better and cheaper and more intelligent. And glasses, I'm a big fan of the Ray-Ban smart glasses and audio listening and simple, AI functionality. Those are going to get smarter and better. And we're going to see Apple glasses
Yeah.
at some point, and we're going to see true XR, augmented reality, so spatial computing in a way that's comfortable and easy, not like the big headsets and the VR goggles that kind of failed. So it's all that intimate, personal computing, wearables, and other devices that, on one hand, provide real utility. Um, they're not just marketing fluff. On the other hand, are invisible, and you don't have to check your phone screen every 5 minutes to get work done, that leverage sound and audio and sensors and sensing to kind of give you just another huge, and AI, of course, productivity boost. So all of these things are out there and coming, and that's going to be just an amazing thing to watch over the next few years.
Love that. So, if someone's watching this right now and they're like, "Hey, I got an idea to do my own podcast or start my own YouTube channel focused on technology," which I'm sure you've also get asked this a lot from time to time from some particularly young people. What would be some advice, you guys? Because you've been doing this for quite a while and you've been very consistent and dedicated. What would be some early advice you'd give to a young person right now that says, "Hey, I want to start my own tech podcast. I want to start doing this, and that." Because young people they're thinking 100 miles an hour in their brains, but sometimes the reality is much different. What is some guidance and advice you'd give that person that's watching right now?
I'd say, it's fun talking and being a content creator and putting out content, but it's also fun listening and learning. And find a creator or a site and maybe ask to volunteer or ask to be an intern or give your time or just study them and learn and practice your craft and look at what they're doing. And so it's not just jump in necessarily and try to do all this at once, but build your skills, build your education, play a role. I mean, many creators are looking for interns or part-time help or even full-time help, maybe a second job to participate and build your skills, your chops, your know-how. And I think that's a great route as well. And to be patient, because like none of this happens overnight.
Yeah,
So there is no overnight success. I think you look at Mr. Beast. I think his first, 100 or
yeah,
1,000 videos are completely embarrassing. And he even talks about that. So, play the long game, I think, is the key.
love that. So a lot of us professionals, we're really busy with our day jobs and everything that we have going on, but we do tend to carve out time in our busy lives and careers to give back to charities, nonprofits, volunteer work, whether we give our time, money, or energy to. So the goal of this question, is there a nonprofit charity, volunteer organization out there that's doing positive, great work in the world that you'd like to shine a light on their mission? And it doesn't have to be tech related, but like for me, an example was I donate every year to St. Jude's Cancer Research, Children's Cancer Research Hospital, because I believe in the mission that they're doing, and also Wounded Warrior and a couple other charities of that like. So, is there one that you like to shine a light on that's doing tremendous work in the world?
Yeah, I like this idea of sustainability and recycling. We all have all these gadgets and computers, and many of them go in the garbage. And so there are organizations like TerraCycle and Keep America Beautiful that are great at reusing, eliminating waste and reusing packaging and repurposing computers for other people. And so that's a I think, cause because you look at these landfills,
Yes.
and full of e-waste, and we're literally they're piling up to the sky. Or you look at tires and burning in these tire heaps in Africa, and it's just unsustainable, right? So no matter what you think about the environment or global warming, I think we can all get behind reuse and recycling, and so those are Planet Aid is another one. Another one, charity water is a great one. We take kind of water for granted
Yes.
um, in the U.S. and a lot of the world, like water is the next big problem, including in the Middle East where you are right
Yes.
now. So charity water builds, drills wells, and they've done like 140,000 water projects, and I was just looking it up, 30 countries, and it's a true nonprofit and just doing such amazing work. A small village somewhere gets a new well. I mean, it just changes everything.
Wonderful. And if you please give me all the links to those
Sure.
organizations, I'll put them in the description below to save the folks that are watching right now that Google search, right? Save you a few seconds to make it easier to connect to them. What is up next for you? I mean, we're still in the spring of 2026. So what is next for you? We're going to be seeing you on stage somewhere. Is there a potential book, a new article, of new venture? What is next for Evan in 2026?
Well, I think it's just keeping this content creation machine going. And if you could connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on YouTube or on X, I publish a short blog daily. I try to take a different point of view on tech and tech history, and that would be great. And the TV show, check it out. If you're a potential guest or you know of someone who'd be a good guest, reach out. Or if you'd like to join the podcast, reach out as well. So I'm always open to ideas and collaborators.
So I'll give you two guests that I think would be really interesting for your podcast. You mentioned the wearables and the 3 to 5 years of how that would be almost transparent to us. So I don't know if you heard of Lynn No, who's the world's first transhuman. He's got, I think, 11 plus
Mm.
technology implants, and he has a documentary that's been going on since about the end of last year called I Am Machine. So I'll definitely
Oh yeah,
send you his profile if you're not already connected with him on LinkedIn. And
no,
then the
I'm not.
second guest I'd recommend, which was a really phenomenal insight into cyber threat intelligence, is Tammy Harper. She works for Flare IO. But when I was talking to her, I didn't anticipate, when you think of a security researcher, you think of someone that's just plugged into a
Mm,
bunch of forums and text-based lifestyle reading, stuff and just, talking through text. But she actually has a unique sleep schedule where she has to be up
mm,
during certain time zones where certain hacker groups
mm.
are up around the world. So she is that dedicated. So she maintains, I
Wow,
think, 50 plus personas because obviously they can't know it's her. So she's got to maintain. It's almost like a cyber secret agent, and that's how
wow.
plugged in she is. She's in all these hacker groups, and she's got personas, and she's got to be awake at different hours of the day. It was a fascinating insight into someone that's really at what I call at the forefront of cyber threat intelligence. So I'll definitely send and recommend those connections to you on LinkedIn. I think they'd be phenomenal guests for you.
Amazing, great recommendation. And thanks again for what you do. We need more of you out
Thank
there.
you.
Good, more good guys defending ourselves, and we may need to clone you in one day in the future. So
I
stay
hope
healthy,
so.
stay
I
well.
would love to be cloned. So one of the things that was not on the agenda question, so this is going to catch Evan a little bit off guard, but I know he'll do fine. I give all my guests this season the final word. So whatever you'd like to talk about, it could be your favorite cuisine, favorite place you like to travel to, whatever you want to talk about, or it could be about tech. Whatever you'd like to talk about, the final word and the floor is yours.
Well, I just posted an article today about drones. I'm a drone enthusiast. I'm obsessed, fascinated by the drone industry, both the commercial side, following what's happening on the wars with drones, and on just as a hobbyist and enthusiast, flying and taking amazing footage. So if you're a drone enthusiast, connect as well. We can talk shop around drones. And I think drone tech, as we've seen for good and bad, whether it's Shaheed attack drones or drones delivering medicines to rural villages. So much opportunity for good. So I'm really excited to connect with folks in the drone world. And if you're in that world, let's connect and chat. Maybe have a discussion on that as well.
Awesome. Well, Evan, thank you for being on Top Cyber Pro podcast. It's been an honor.
Likewise, honored to be here.